Because some people might say, oh, but, where does my money go?
Yeah, totally. Well, look, I had the real immense privilege of seeing it firsthand recently. So I was in Sri Lanka, and it was with our partner Compassion, who run the child sponsorship program. And they took us up into the tea plantations of Sri Lanka, and these are reasonably high at altitude where you can grow tea. And there are very, very poor Hindu communities in there, but there are Christian churches right in the middle of those tea plantations just doing an amazing job. Now, and I met this pastor, and he is a convert from the Hindu faith to Christianity some years ago, and he said about really for the rest of his life he just wants to help kids who were like him, poor and broadly forgotten. And he's built this church, and he's working with hundreds of kids. Of course, they play cricket. It's Sri Lanka
naturally.
So, so they have these clubs for sport, but they're just doing a brilliant job of helping with that sort of gap in their education. And their parents are really quite poor, so they would earn. Dad would earn $3.50 maximum in a day. Might work 10, 15 days in the month. Mum, if she's not picking tea, she's raising the kids. So I met one woman, she's raising her young family. The program had paid for a new roof on her house because it was leaking. She was so grateful for the club-based work, the sports. You wouldn't think of this, but there was drug addiction in the community and alcoholism. And it had got to grips with that. They were running programs for the parents to help them stay away from drugs, help their kids stay away from it. And we got shoved into these tuk-tuks, these three-wheelers, and we were taken down these bumpy. I thought, we're going to roll this thing over the edge, down these bumpy, muddy tracks and into this housing, which is essentially on the tea plantation and owned by the tea plantation. When I see things like that, I think, you guys are one step away from sort of slave labour in a way. The wage is not fantastic. You don't own your own home. There's probably no escape from this. And I thought there is a church in the middle of that doing just fantastic work with that community. And the kids are coming to Christ one by one. And in many cases, their parents are as well. And we don't talk a lot about that over there because it's a sensitivity around the conversion. But this is the freedom to choose. And this is where God makes a difference in your life and you turn to Christ. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening in these communities.
0508 003 003 then. If that is something that excites you, the best way to respond is by choosing to sponsor a child this morning. Tell us more about, though, this relationship between the churches and a largely Hindu community there. How does that conversation start to develop? How do those walls between the two faiths start to collapse? And then we see what you've mentioned there with children coming to Christ.
It's interesting. You see both ends. You see an acceptance of this program as they realise that it's doing good for the children. So you see the acceptance first by the parents who say, do you know what, you really are looking after my kid. You really are helping support me to raise my child. And you see a genuine love and warmth and regard for the pastor, the church, and for the program. Initially, this pastor faced really strong opposition from two faiths in that country. And the local temple wanted a cut on the program. Well, that's not going to happen, and he said, well, this money's destined for the children. And once he'd proven early on, it was actually going to the children and it was actually supporting them. Nobody's siphoning this off. Nobody's getting rich. Pastor's not building a fancy house. Then the opposition fell away. I mean, the local paper had run an article to try and stop him working there. But he is a genuine convert from Hinduism. He loves the community. He understands the Hindu culture. And he's the right guy to be there doing that work. And so you see in the end you see acceptance and warmth towards it as they recognise that those sort of values that we hold so dear in Christianity, children of God, all made equal, and finding the God-given talents that those children have are compatible with having a healthy existence and opportunities in life that they may not have had. The background history here is these workers were brought into Sri Lanka in the 50s, 60s and 70s, firstly by the British and then by the Sri Lankan government after independence to work on the tea plantations. And for a long time they were stateless. So they are the underclass of Sri Lanka, the Tamil Hindu tea picking population. And so work among them, you cannot work with anyone poorer in that corner of South and Southeast Asia. And it's just a wonderful work to be doing.
So good. And do you know what what's you're talking and what's coming out at me is you are in there, Tearfund and Compassion, not going in with all the big fancy things saying, hey, this is what you guys need. You've got that pastor on the ground who knows the place, knows what they need and wants to walk alongside them. And, you know, I see this as a bit of a mission ourselves. We might not be called to go to another country and, you know, help them out there, but we are called to help the people in need. So this is your chance to do it right now. 0508 003 003. It's like you're a missionary, but you're staying here, but sending the money over there to help this pastor in Sri Lanka, right?
Totally. And just quickly to finish on this one. So Darshika, she was 18 years old and extremely polite, and she was in this program, and she just said, you know what, my sponsor's a German woman and I've really got to know her. And she said, when I feel down, I pull out those letters and I read through them. Oh, it just makes you weep. You know, She just has a bond with this woman in Germany, and you can be like that woman in Germany and support someone like Darshika. Just a lovely young woman today.